welcome back to the Shivering Mouse. I'm so excited to see you back here today. Oh, let me turn you around a little bit so that you can see my Disney stuff. If you can see it past my post-yoga Auburn Tinkerbell thing happening up here. I used to think Tinkerbell just had like super short haircut, and so then her ponytail was like a little nubbin, but if you watch the animated series, she actually has pretty long hair. It's actually a bun. Who knew? Oh, there goes Bailey. She's leaving. She doesn't like when I talk through her nap. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the Trim Healthy Mama podcast, which they call the potty. So I've called it the potty on here a couple times, just not thinking, and looking back kind of realized that might have been a little confusing for some people. I'm not talking about going potty. I'm talking about their podcast, which they call the potty, Poddy, and they do spell it for you profusely, so you'll get used to it. Just some announcements from this week's podcast from the girls. Pearl's daughter Meadow is back from Japan because of the current Voldemort virus thing happening. She was in Japan with her husband, and she's in kind of an advanced stage of pregnancy, and so even though she is a week further along than they usually will allow you to fly at, they sent her back home. So for those of you who do keep up with the Trim Healthy Mamas and were concerned about Meadow, she's home now, so that's cool. Trim Healthy Mama's niece are writing a book about different Trim Healthy Mama recipes and stuff like that, kind of their interpretation and how it has helped their lives. It's called Trim Healthy Future. I was delighted to find out this week that Pearl was a hesitant driver, because I myself was also pretty nervous about learning to drive. I consider it just being aware of the responsibility of driving. I was very nervous. I'm probably one of the most clumsy creatures on God's green earth, and so the thought of having the kind of weight and speed and power behind me that comes with a car made driving terrifying. So even every turn, every breath, every speed bump was horrifying to me, and it took me a long time to learn to drive. Like, I would get like 98% on the actual written test, which when people fail driver's ed, that's usually the part they'd fail. But I was so frightened during the driving portions that I tanked, guys. I mean, I did terribly. And interestingly, my husband was one of the people who was in my little crew in the driving car vehicle the second time I took it. So yeah, careful who you drive with when you drive. You may end up meeting your husband, which I guess that gets him seeing one of the most vulnerable things about me out of the way right away. So, I mean, we don't have to worry about that later. But yeah, I just am thinking about that now. Yeah, he was in my driver's ed team. And our friend that we're still in contact with was the other one. And I was actually friends with my husband's friend first because he was in choir with me. But yeah, small world. There you go. Well, I guess anyone else who grew up in a small town, then none of this is shocking. So there you go. I'm looking forward to getting my contacts pretty soon. It's April, so I'm going to go get an eye exam sometime in the next couple weeks, get my contacts. I am looking forward to having contacts again. My dogs are super affectionate, and they love to just kiss all over my face, especially when I'm doing yoga and I'm within firing distance, and they can get me. They love when I do yoga. But when I leave them downstairs and do yoga upstairs by myself, then they cry because they're away from me. So I let them up there, and it's an interesting experience. But the point is, it leaves little yuckies all over my glasses, and I cannot wait to get contacts back. What I can wait for, what I hate the most, maybe not the most, but it's high on the list, is that stupid glaucoma test. I mean, I don't want glaucoma. I definitely don't want glaucoma, but when they're shooting that little puff of air in your eye, you're thinking, oh, there's gotta be a better way. Oh my gosh. Because I am a blinker, guys. I blink every single time, whether they warn me, whether they don't, no matter what's going on. I'm staring at that little palm tree in the horizon, and I jump out of the chair. And so then, they have to do it again and again and again to get a good measurement. So they're just like machine gun firing at my eyeball, hoping to get a good measurement to see whether or not I've got glaucoma. it's just very frustrating. I come out of there with just red eyes and water dripping down. I can't wear makeup before I go to my eye exam. It ends up being a problem. But yeah, I mean, I hate the glaucoma test. I mean, how long have we been doing that test? See, somebody come up with a better way to do that, because I physically jump out of the seat every single time, and I end up having to do it like 8 times per eye. It's terrible. It took a long time for me to be able to put in my contacts too. The lady had to do it for me because I would jump every time I'd go to touch my eye. So this lady, she held my head still and she put it on my eye, and from there on I could do it, just because nothing could be as horrifying as somebody else touching my eye. I was going to do it myself, but still, she held my head still. I don't like stuff around my eyes, dog. But yeah, so, kind of mixed feelings there. So excited to have contacts again, and they don't let you get them again after, when it gets close to the 1-year mark. So excited to have contacts again, so not excited about the glaucoma test. Blech. Anyway, I guess that's personal rant for today. Moving on, for the Trim Healthy Mama podcast, they talk about setting a can-do. I've got to get a skinnier or a wider camera. You can't see my finger quotes. What fun is this without finger quotes? My finger quotes say, can-do identity for yourself. In other words, to sort of believe that you're capable of anything, but also being aware of your pitfalls, your weaknesses, the problems that tend to be a greater problem for you than for others. For me, on my Trim Healthy journey, that's kind of emotional eating. I've found that my greatest struggle is I come from a background of, being a nurse's assistant, a patient care technician, a phlebotomist, lots of little kind of more minor but little healthcare credentials happening back there. I was a biology major in college, so I get the science of the diet. I even get the science of calories in, calories out. I kind of combine the two things. I understand it here. But here has made this, because I eat because of emotions and I eat because I'm bored. And so the whole set a can-do identity for yourself thing for me is inspiring, because it tells me, to tell myself I can, that I don't need it. I can do this no matter how many times I've failed. And that's part of what I love about the Trim Healthy Mamas, is they're not judgmental when you mess up. I don't want to throw poo at the keto community, but they're such purists. They're serenes, guys. They're not pearls, they're serenes. And they, you miss one day and you have to start getting into ketosis all the way over. It's like a 2-week thing, and they're kind of, they help you get back on track, talking to people, but at the same time, there's always this little feeling of shame. Whereas Trim Healthy Mamas are like, okay, well, wait 3 hours for your next meal and we'll start this right back up. And I kind of love that, because I'm someone who stumbles a lot. And, that's part of what I like about Trim Healthy Mama, is that you can recover so much faster. Talks about don't set limitations to stop you, not budget or support or plateaus in your weight loss or health issues or holidays. What I took this to mean, rather than limitations, is, I think a better word for it is excuses. And I tend to be great at this. Like last weekend was my wedding anniversary, so, let's go out somewhere fun to eat. Of course, right now that's not even like in the realm of possibility. There is nowhere to go, but normally that would be a time where I would fall off the wagon. And my issue is, when I have a cheat meal, it turns into like a cheat week really easy, because it starts that carbohydrate craving right back up. So no matter how well I've been doing, that cheat meal, I've got glasses reflections happening here, that cheat meal turns into a cheat week really easily. Next thing I know, it's Thursday and my cheat meal was on Saturday, and I'm going, oh man, what did I do? And I tend to do like the water weight thing super easy too, so I'll hop on the scale and it's 6 pounds up. Most of it's water weight, but at the same time it's super discouraging, and so I just got to jump back on it. I've had one of you ask how many owl mugs I have. I have many. I would love more. I'm thinking about collecting like either owl mugs or fabulous Disney mugs, because if you've ever listened to my podcast at patreon.com/shiveringmouse, it's a Disney World podcast, so there's definitely a lot of Disney happening in my world as well. So I don't know, I'm kind of like at an impasse. Do I collect Disney mugs or owl mugs? Disney owl mugs. I can get a cool Archimedes mug. Yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't know that they make that, but I would love to do it. Anyway, back to the subject. I've had too much like tea this morning, too much caffeine. I'm all over the place, and I'm always really energized when I've done yoga. So I don't know. I'm all bouncy. Let's see. They just, are making a point in this episode that following this is not about willpower. It's about, as Serene says, taking every thought captive, which is a biblical reference. And so those of you who are not as familiar with that, it just means to really think about your thoughts and where they're coming from. Their kind of producer, Danny, who's on the show with them, talks about how, for every good thought he has, there's also a negative thought, and he has to choose which one of those he kind of plucks and holds onto and which one he just kind of passes aside. And so that's kind of what they're talking about when it comes to taking captive every thought. Focus on which thoughts you actually want to keep and where you want to make those part of your definition of yourself, and which ones you just kind of want to wave goodbye to. And so I thought that was pretty productive. So it, they say it more perfectly, precisely, succinctly, there we go, in just the statement of don't let you define yourself by your struggles. Apparently my struggle today is words, but just don't say, oh, I'm this person with PCOS, or I'm the person with diabetes, or I'm the person who doesn't like fish. Just find ways to succeed beyond that. If you don't say, oh, I'm too poor to do this diet. A lot of the diet, yes, they have their Trim Healthy Mama, gentle sweeteners and baking blend and stuff like that, but you don't need those things to do Trim Healthy Mama. That's part of why I'm doing this journey with you, is because I can't afford the Trim Healthy Mama baking blend, but I can go to Aldi's and get a $4 jar of coconut oil. I can get coconut flour and almond flour. Coconut flour is cheaper, by the way. But, it's one of those things where I can't get all of the special mixed ingredients, but at my grocery store, I can still get everything I need to do this particular plan for eating. It's just, kind of off-brand. So it's still possible, and that's kind of what they emphasize in here, which I always kind of love when they do that, because it shows that they're more interested in people's health than they are in making a profit. They love having a profit, don't get me wrong, but they'd rather see you healthy. And so they openly say, look, if you can't get our baking blend, or if you can't get our stevia, get stevia at your grocery store, get stevia at Aldi. And so it's fantastic. I love that they're that caring. Episode 13 of their podcast was making the plan work with a busy life. And this is particularly profound coming from Serene, because she's got like 400,000 kids. I mean, Pearl has a lot of kids too, but Serene has a lot of kids. And so they talk about just kind of balancing the plan, about making kind of an auto meal that's kind of similar or the same almost every day, so that on days when you don't have time, you get pretty quick at it. Usually for most people, the easiest one is breakfast. You throw together some bacon and eggs or some oatmeal, and those are so quick to make, especially if you do kind of the overnight oat thing. And so, they're just talking about making a priority and, ways to make being on plan a little more timely. Some meals and foods that are quick to make, like cabbage, eggs, that kind of thing. So definitely worth a listen. They also kind of talk about how they don't come from a background of a lot of money, where, Serene's house was in foreclosure. Both of their husbands were giving plasma for money, and they were shopping at Aldi's and getting their clothes at Goodwill when their book came out. So they come from a situation of understanding not being able to afford all of the special ingredients for the plan. And so you got to appreciate somebody who kind of understands that when you're coming from a situation where you can't get all of the special ingredients yourself, 14 talks about real health and beauty rather than kind of an airbrushed out ideal. They're talking about not sacrificing your health to meet today's beauty standards and expectations. They also put a lot of emphasis on loving others as you love yourself, which means you have to be able to love yourself. I don't think they are endorsing being self-centered, which I think is of huge risk with the kind of self-love community that we have going on in our country today. We have a lot of people who put themselves first for everything, and they've got that whole self-love movement thing. This is not so much that as it is, it's harder to take care of your kids if you're diabetic or if you're just not fit enough to go for a walk or play with them. And so they kind of come at it from the point of, to love their families, they have to take care of themselves, which that standard of that I can agree with. I'm not into the super, self-love, I come first kind of thing, but you do have to take a certain amount of care of yourself in order to be there for the people who need you, and I think that that's kind of the point they're making in this particular episode. Today's lunch for me was an S lunch. I did tilapia with coconut oil and asparagus, and I kind of seasoned the tilapia with a little fish seasoning packet. I love these packets because getting spices like one spice at a time in the store, like getting the little McCormick doodads, I mean, they're crazy expensive. And you never make a dish that requires just one particular spice or seasoning. There's always multiple ones. So I love getting these little pouches. They're right by the pouches of like taco seasoning and stuff, but it has, like garlic lemon fish seasoning or tomato basil chicken seasoning, and so I like to get those because it's just like $2 and it's always more than enough for me for the whole week, and it's so much cheaper and faster than going and getting every single little jar of herbs and spices that go into that particular product. So that's kind of my tip for the week. I'm gonna make a comment here about my Good Girl Moonshine too. You saw me making the concentrate for it the other day. I hate vinegar. So I have a very love-hate relationship with Good Girl Moonshine. I love the vitamin C, the blood sugar balance. I just feel really good when I take it. I can almost like feel the anti-inflammatories going on, which is really like, ooh, spooky. But no, like I feel good when I drink it. But I hate vinegar. I hate almost all fermented foods. So it's a love-hate thing. I hate the flavor of it, so I tend to just kind of chug it as fast as I can, but which is, not recommended on Planet as an all-day sipper. But yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with Good Girl Moonshine, so I'd love to hear if any of you have kind of a similar thing going on. Do you have something that's healthy that you should do, but you kind of just despise it, but you feel so good when you do it? With that, I'm going to tune out for today. Thank you so much for tuning in with me.